Okay. Oh, you want to be in it? I'll introduce you to my professor. Thanks for being amazing teammates and allowing me to do my presentation for professional development for my course. And today we're going to talk about boosting comprehension with vocabulary and morphology instruction. As we have been going through in a lot of our professional development sessions, Scarborough's rope. So my objective today for us all is that we will learn some methods to boost student comprehension through targeted vocabulary and morphology. And we're going to learn about the types of vocabulary and acquisition processes. We're going to talk about the tiers of vocabulary. And I learned so much. If this isn't registering what any of this means, that's okay, because I learned so much from creating the presentation and learning about it. So another thing we're going to learn about is research-based vocabulary instruction practices. And I just went to the IDA conference in Dallas, and that's the International Dyslexia Association conference. And they do a lot more than just dyslexia. It's basically a literacy conference for all. They kept reiterating, because a lot of things now say research-based. You have the science of reading, but we need research and evidence-based. Like when we're looking at products or things that we're doing, we need to verify that it's also evidence-based, because anyone can do research on something we're using in our classroom, but we need to make sure that it's also evidence-based as well. So throw that in there. And then morphology instruction, I kind of want to take a little bit more time with that, because I feel like we have an opportunity to grow together school-wide with our morphology instruction. And again, if you're not sure what that word means, great, that means I get to help today. So, I don't know if this will work. So here's our little Scarborough's reading rope, and today we're working on vocabulary here, which is under our language comprehension. And something that I want to reiterate with you is language comprehension. A lot of when we're dealing with reading deficits, it's going to stem back to language deficits. If we're dealing with writing deficits, it's going to stem back to a language deficit. So when we're talking about vocabulary, we're going to learn today, a lot of it is going to stem back to our vocabulary, our speaking, our words that we say. So, but that's kind of where we're focusing today. And then I wanted to also share with you, IDA at the conference presented a new picture for structured literacy. So at TLA, bless you, use structured literacy. And IDA is actually the organization that coined the term structured literacy. So this is how we go about teaching literacy at TLA. And this, we could have a whole PD session on this. So I'm not going to delve a whole lot into it. I just kind of wanted to show you what it looked like. I provided the link for you in your agenda that I sent you. So here we have morphemes. So this is the student, morphemes, graphemes, vocabulary, background knowledge, sentence structure, text structure, critical thinking, orthographic conventions, syllable and stress patterns. And then this talks about the way, so these are the what. This is what we're teaching. And then the how is this outer circle. How are we teaching it? Scaffolding, targeted prompt feedback, data-driven, multimodal, cumulative, sequential, explicit, highly interactive. So this is telling us how. And at conference, they were talking about, what's her name? Cardenas Hagen. Those of us who went to the dyslexia training, she was there and spoke to us. She kept saying, like, we're doing with the we're changing the definition, and we were all at the table like, what was she talking about? She's on the team that oversaw the change of this, and they're changing the definition of dyslexia. And I gave you a packet that has kind of their notes on it, and she's listed there. So I was like, oh, that's what she was talking about. She was literally, they're changing the definition for things. But they changed the infographic. The original one was a lot more simplistic, and it just had kind of like what got taught, but it didn't necessarily show like how we're teaching it. And then this is the other part to it. So the who, you're going to see a lot in public ed type things like tier 1 teaching, tier 2 teaching, tier 3 teaching, and that can get a little confusing for myself. Like, what are they talking about? Tier 1 kids, tier 2 kids, what? So tier 1 is basically for a public school. We are all here at TLA, but is a general ed classroom teacher. Your tier 2 is the special education teacher, reading specialist, intervention personnel. So we at TLA, we do our tier 2 like in our small group when we're pulling our students and we're working with them. So we are the ones who are doing our tier 2 instruction for those kids who need that extra support. And then tier 3 would be your dyslexia specialist, special education teacher. So our kids that we have pulling out going to take flight, that would be like an additional. So that doesn't mean they skip tier 2 because they go to take flight. We still need to be doing tier 2, like small group with them in the classroom, working with them. So I thought that was super helpful. And then this just breaks down the what and the how, science of reading, the why. And this is another thing, just because it says science of reading doesn't mean it necessarily is. We have to like do our due diligence in reading the article or whatever it is to verify that it truly is. So, because that's kind of like a tagline for selling things right now because it's a hot topic, but that it doesn't take away from the fact of what science of reading is, which is all of these things up here. So I just wanted to share that briefly with you because that's new, hot off the press. So let's start with what is vocabulary. This is the interactive part. Woo! What is vocabulary? Or what would you say like you could define vocabulary as?
Meanings of words.
Okay.
Used for communication.
Meanings of words. Words you need for communication. Too far. So vocabulary, words we must know to comprehend and communicate effectively. So both of those answers are correct. And I'm getting a little happy on the... So the types of vocabulary, this was new learning for me. So we have oral vocabulary, which would be when we are speaking or listening. So there's actually 4 different types of vocabulary. We have oral, speaking and listening, and we have reading vocabulary, words that we recognize while we're reading print or that we're used when we're writing print. So I didn't realize I just thought like vocabulary, a word, you teach them and you move on, right? But it's a little bit more complex than that. And I would say oral vocabulary is a precedent to reading vocabulary. And we're going to talk more about this and the importance of our oral vocabulary with our students. So emerging readers, and emerging is a nice word that just means a child who's interested in reading, but they're not quite there yet, okay? So, do we have emerging readers in pre-K? Absolutely. Kinder and first grade? Absolutely. Second and third grade? Yes. Do we have them all the way up the grade level? Yes. We have emerging readers at all levels, but they have a difficult time reading words that are not already part of their oral vocabulary. So, if we are doing a vocabulary activity with them, they've never heard this word before, it's not part of their oral vocabulary, it's going to be really hard for them if they're reading a book independently. They're not going to understand what they are reading. And oral language is the foundation for all of literacy. Reading, writing, it's everything, their oral literacy. So, how can we help with their vocabulary development? So I thought it'd be interesting to break down how do students learn vocabulary. So children learn most words incidentally through everyday activities with oral and written language. So first is talking with others, especially adults. And we talked about this with our last training with background knowledge and how important speaking to adults was with background knowledge because they're getting more information in their brains. It's the same thing with vocabulary. If you have students coming to pre-K who haven't conversed a lot with adults or anyone who maybe have been sat in front of a TV or a gaming system or just out of the way, they're going to have a deficit in their vocabulary simply because they haven't had the adequate communication with others, especially adults. And then listening to others read aloud was the second highest way. So, and I would still learn, I read aloud to all levels, middle school, high school, they all get this how we're reading to them. This is super important, reading aloud to our students, because they're able to hear it. They need to hear it before they ever see it or try to write it. And then the other one, reading extensively on their own. And this one, what do you guys think about reading extensively on their own? What has been your experience with that?
I think it comes naturally after they develop those other things.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, somebody who's not well developed in those other areas, they're never going to read extensively on
Mm-hmm.
their own.
And it has to be driven by their self-interest
Mm-hmm.
and for them to be motivated to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
if they're not doing it and they're capable, then they probably haven't found the interest or motivation that they want to consume in a reading
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I try to live by a philosophy, like if they can do it, they will, but they also have to have a buy-in. Especially the older you get, the more the buy-in they have to have, because if they're not interested, then it's not happening. But I started using Bookshare, so we do 10 minutes independent read with my middle schoolers. High school, well, we're still working on other things, but with my middle schoolers, we're being quite successful with our independent reading. And I, with some of the money that I received from the grant, I got more graphic novels, which they love, and I bought the Goosebumps series, which they love because it's a little on the edge of, gruesome or whatever, some of them scary. And also Bookshare, which is a program we have for our dyslexic students. I can look up any of those books, and so they have the option to either use the Bookshare and listen to their story while they're watching it. Epic would be another example of that, but I have mine using Bookshare because we have that available. And then so finding a way for our students to be successful reading independently, even if that means that they're needing to be read to, is important, because if they're listening to it, again, that's kind of the prerequisite to the rest of it. So listening is a great place to start for students who are emergent readers. So the primary way students develop a robust vocabulary is through wide and independent reading. Researchers believe that about 80% of our vocabulary is learned through speech with each other. So speaking to each other, we learn about 80% of our vocabulary. And then in order to comprehend text through independent reading, we need to know 95% of the words that we're seeing, is the other research that they found. And I have, I'll share my slide deck with you. I have all the references. So even though through speaking with others is the way that we learn vocabulary the most, explicit vocabulary instruction is still helpful. Okay, so we could say, well, if they're learning 80% of their vocabulary through speech, why do I need to waste my time in the classroom? I have so much to do already, right? However, we're going to talk about these tiers of vocabulary, and it'll make more sense in a minute why we need to invest that time. So it's saying that we need to teach students vocabulary before they learn to read. So vocabulary instruction isn't something like we wait until they're reading to teach. Like it starts pre-K, birth, but while we have them pre-K up. So what are some ways that we can incorporate incidental vocabulary learning in our classroom? So just incidental, I'm not up here teaching a vocabulary lesson to my students. What are some ways that we can help to create a classroom environment where they're learning vocabulary through incidental means?
Like posting words and
Okay,
things?
like just a word on its own?
Well, no,
Or-
like if you're studying a certain topic,
Okay,
and the words that relate to that topic.
okay. So maybe having a some things on the wall for whatever topic it is we're discussing that we could put some words on, maybe that I can reference. What else?
Well, when I'm reading a book, if I come to a word that is, they don't understand,
Uh-huh.
we stop and we talk about that word and
Right.
what it means.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a word that comes up that's like, if we say bashful, I'll ask them like, does anybody know what that means? Or then we'll talk about like what that means or what, and I'll even like tell them like maybe, I'll tell them, what would it look like if you were being bashful? Yeah, so I do that.
Those are great ideas. Allowing them opportunities to talk. So these are some no grammar cards that we use with Take Flight. You don't have to use them with Take Flight. That's not what they're designed for. They're just designed for ELA instruction. But these would be something any grade level. You have a picture, right? I'm not explicitly teaching vocabulary instruction, but on the back it has questions for me. So I asked them, what do you see in this picture? And then we were talking. So anything that we can do to get the students engaged in talking, because talking is the #1 way that we learn our vocabulary. So we talk about it. What is this picture about? A birthday. Why do you think it's a birthday? Why are there 8 candles on the cake? So it just kind of has like questions that you can ask, and these are something that we Take Flight we use for comprehension, but it doesn't have to be used for comprehension. You can use it for vocabulary. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with vocabulary? I'm not teaching them like, some crazy word. It's just getting them speaking about what they're seeing and talking in a more academic way is helping with their vocabulary instruction. But these could be super helpful just to get them speaking. So another thing, and I know it's probably like the turn and talk, like getting them to be able to talk with their neighbor about whatever the concept is. And I sometimes in the world's worst at forgetting to give them time to talk. So about whatever it is that we're learning about, and we might do like whole class share, but like stopping and giving them time to talk to each other, I have not been the greatest at. Okay, so let's talk about these tiers of vocabulary. So you have tiers for instruction. Now we have tiers for vocabulary. We've got tiers everywhere. But so for tier vocabulary, tier 1 consists of basic familiar words that are commonly used by most students in everyday conversation. We don't have to explicitly teach these words unless, there's always a caveat, unless we have an English language learner or some other learning difference with a student that they might need some more direct and explicit instruction. But for most students, they're going to learn all of these words simply through conversing with others. And tier 1 makes up between 80 and 90% of a student's vocabulary. So that's the good news, right? Most vocabulary that our students need to learn, they're going to learn simply from being a kid, okay? That's super helpful. I think that takes a little bit of the pressure off. So that's tier 1. We don't have to directly, explicitly teach. Tier 2 are robust, high-frequency words that students encounter across the content areas. These words have multiple meanings and are referred as academic vocabulary words. So these are words they're not necessarily going to hear at home. They're not going to necessarily, depending on the show, hear, on a show, on a game that they're playing. These are words that they may only hear in an educational setting. However, tier 2 words are crucial for understanding academic texts and are often unfamiliar to students, making direct instruction essential. These words help students engage more deeply with text, as they are often found in written language but may not be heard in daily conversation. And these tier 2 words make up between 10 and 20% of vocabulary, okay? This is our primary focus. And this applies for all grade levels, all content areas. So something else I learned, or not learned, I knew it, but we all, if you're a teacher, you're a reading teacher. If you're a science teacher, you're a reading teacher. If you're a math teacher, you're a reading teacher. Because if our students can't comprehend what they are reading in your content area, it doesn't matter, how great of a math teacher, how great of a science teacher, how great of social studies or music or even the gym, if they're not understanding what you say when you say do this, and they're like, I don't know what she's talking about. So we are all reading teachers, and we are all invested in a vocabulary instruction. So I wanted us to take a minute here. So I told you that reading aloud is super helpful, and I need to focus on these tier 2 words, okay? What does that look like? So I have not looked this up yet. Miss Collins brought this book, The Scarecrow. This is one of her read alouds. So let's have our little friend ChatGPT help us out, shall we? Okay, so I'm gonna go. I was looking up other stuff. Genuine. Okay, so I'm on ChatGPT, OpenAI, and I'm gonna ask what are some tier 2 vocabulary words for the picture book? The Scarecrow by Beth Ferry. Based 2nd grade, 1st grade, 2nd, 3rd. Okay, what are some tier 2 vocabulary words for the picture book The Scarecrow by Beth Ferry, based on 2nd grade level? Okay, so it's given me a list of words where I have lonely, feeling alone, or isolated. Would that be a definition a student could understand? Gentle, soft and kind in action or touch. Protect, to keep them safe from harm. Okay, and again, I haven't done this yet. I thought of this morning. I should have thought about it sooner, but we're gonna play with something. So now I'm gonna open, I have Brisk installed. It's a Google extension, and it's this black little thing right here. So I'm gonna post those vocabulary words here, and then my little Brisk icon comes up, and I'm gonna create something. So I can create a quiz, a rubric, syllabus, all of these things. So I'm looking for decodable text with these words. Are these decodable words for a 2nd grader? Maybe, maybe not. Some of them. What if I'm going to do something else?
Actually,
They're all decodable?
2nd grade, yeah.
Okay, so
If they're in 2nd grade level, that's.
if they're not, oh, because I put it 2nd grade. Okay, so let's create then a decodable text. Create a short decodable text using these vocabulary words, and then I need to change it. It's not university level. We're gonna do 2nd grade. And then I can change it. Do I want to do short vowels, single, consonant blends? Let's do, does it have affixes? We're gonna go with affixes simply because of what we're gonna talk about here in a minute. So I'm gonna put affixes on here. And then I brisk it. Oh, it kept short E&O. No, whatever. Okay, so here's something short that has all of our words in it. So you could do that if you're using this book for a whole week. You could do something like that, introducing the vocabulary before you get to it. You could also make it longer, less detail, more detail. What about making sentence stems that they could match the vocabulary word with? Is that something that y'all do with your vocabulary instruction ever? So then I won't take the time here, but then on create, you could say create sentence stems to match the vocabulary words, and it'll create you a list of vocabulary words. You could create a PowerPoint with your vocabulary words. And we're gonna talk about several different means of teaching vocabulary here in a minute, because we don't have to every time like have a full-blown vocabulary lesson before we read a read aloud. So I'm gonna show you some other tools you can do. Now, can you? Absolutely. If I want to use this book for the week, and these are going to be the vocabulary words we're using for the week, I can do full-blown lessons for it. What if I just want to read this to them, but I want to make sure they don't miss any of the content? What do we do then? And we'll talk about that here in just a minute after we discuss our tier 2 words, or tier 3 words. So, tier 3 words, these are your low-frequency words that are content-specific. These words have distinct meanings and purposes. These are only going to make up there wasn't it's only a few percentages. So less than 5% of vocabulary. However, are they important for content areas when we're teaching no atom science, when we're teaching history, when we're teaching math? Are they important? Yes. And we're going to talk about how to use morphology as a way to help students decode some of these tier 3 words. But there's that. So the main one we're going to focus on is tier 2. This one, depending on our content area, we may need to focus a little bit more on. So, and then we also need to focus on teaching morphologically complex words. So what are they? Prefixes, suffixes, roots. Teaching students these components help them infer meaning of unfamiliar words. So, and I'm going to show you a lot more detail on this. Okay, so let's talk about 5 strategies. So now we've talked about what we need to teach. We need to teach our tier 2 vocabulary words, regardless of what content area that we teach. Now let's talk about how we're going to do that. So I kind of wanted to ask, what are some vocabulary teaching strategies that you have found to be successful in your classroom?
I think the foldable that we got from Karen has been great.
Yay, and we're going to do that when we get to that slide. We're going to do a foldable. So she's talking about a professional development we went to, and this woman, Lindsay Kimeny, she was quoted or referenced a lot in several of the PD sessions I went to at the IDA conference. So like, I didn't realize, I wish I would have had more context when we went to that training, because I had no idea, like, oh, we're in the room with some like really, yeah, superstar people, Lindsay Kimeny, and then, I can't think of her name, Cardenas Hagen. I had no idea who they were, and then I go to this IDA conference, and they're like referencing Lindsay Kimeny, and then they're having Cardenas come up on stage for whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. So anyway, now I know. But so we're gonna learn that strategy. Does anyone else have a strategy that I will tell you some things I've tried that haven't been real great. Like I've tried to use index cards and then have them on a ring, and then I had a zipper pouch, and then they could like flip through them, and then I have index cards all over my room because of the whole executive functioning issue, and that I haven't had much success with. So I would say that probably a lot of it my fault, but
I always like to do motions with the words. Like when we do definitions, I like to, and then we just like go over them every day.
nice.
But having the motions along with them saying the definition and then us saying a sentence. So having all 3.
Nice. So definitely multimodal. So anytime you see the word multimodal, that you're engaging more than one sense. So adding motion to it, that's amazing.
The one that Ms. Collins has been doing that we had learned in that Fallon has been bringing those home, and it's working. I mean, she has a good memory, but she really enjoys the
But
process.
yeah,
That's
even the
awesome.
kids who don't have a good memory, it's been really good
Yeah.
for them.
I like that.
Like,
Yeah, so we're gonna do a demo of that together based on our scarecrow words here in a bit, so that we can all kind of have practice with doing that strategy. So I'm excited that that's been working well. Okay, so here's a few ideas, and these are all from the Texas Center for Learning Disabilities, and I put the link in your agenda so that you could go and get more information on each one of these strategies. They had links, some of them have videos, so if you want more information. This one I thought was interesting because this is essential words routine. This one reminded me of if I was going to be doing a picture book and I didn't want to have to do full-blown a whole week of vocabulary instruction for it, but I wanted to do a few key words that I was worried if my student didn't understand that word, they would miss the context of the book. This would be a great one. So you have a teacher-friendly definition, synonyms, a picture, and this isn't the kid doing it, this is just you come up with this as a teacher. So you come up with this, a couple of example sentences. The main key here that the student participates in is the turn and talk piece here. So the word is interact, the definition, when two or more things have effect on one another. Some synonyms, and what's a synonym? Things that sound the same, right? Or words that mean the same. Connect, influence together. So then we might talk about this picture. What do these arrows mean? Everything's kind of interrelated. This looks like something from a Salazar's class, the cycle of life or something. And then we say, the example sentence is, one way to learn a foreign language is to interact with native speakers of that language. And then another sentence, the garden produced a lot of vegetables when it interacted with plenty of sunlight, rain, and warm temperatures. And then now we turn and tell your partner about a time when you interacted with someone and it influenced you in a positive way. Okay, so we turn and talk, and we'll make you do it. And then another one, tell your partner about how two animals interact in an ecosystem. So this would be, if we're doing a science lesson, then we're talking about ecosystem, and interact is one of the words that we need to know, then this can be helpful in doing that. Now, that takes a lot of time. No, use your tools, ChatGPT, student-friendly definition, synonyms, example sentences. You can get that in just a couple of minutes. And then turn and talk prompts. You can literally ask ChatGPT for how to do each one of these. So if you just had a little template set up already, you could plug it in super easily. Okay? So this one is kind of on the fly. We survived! We weren't unplugged!
I'm sorry.
Those are our TLA kids. We love them. So I really liked this one because it was something that we could do super fast, move on, make sure they don't miss an understanding in what we're going to read to them. So this one's been around for a long time. I don't even know. I should have Googled how long has this been around, but it's not. I don't know.
The
Yeah.
1800s.
1800s.
I mean the
The
80s.
cavemen had these on their walls. So this is the Friar or Freyer. How do y'all say it? This is what I want to know.
Freyer.
Freyer. Okay. The Freyer model. So on this one we have. So this is one the student would do, or you could do a whole group together. Show them how to do a couple of the words and then have them work with a pair, or however you want to do it. But the definition, student friendly. So this is super important, student friendly. If we're just looking it up, like what does whatever mean, and it's not on the level of our students, they're not going to grasp it, which is where a little friend is my bestie, Chatty, or Brisk. I use Brisk a lot because I could just change the thing, but you can also prompt ChatGPT, tell it to me on a first grade level or whatever. But student-friendly definition is super important. If it's above their heads, I mean, you're wasting your time, basically. And then characteristics, features that help students recognize, identify, or distinguish the term. And then some examples, some synonyms, concrete applications, relevant, and then some non-examples. This was interesting to me. The non-example piece, I'm like, so when I was doing my research for it, I'm like, non-example, would that not confuse them? Like I'm trying to tell them, you know, the term friendly, and then, you know, I'm like, okay, non-examples of friendly, like how is that supposed to help? But it does help. Non-examples help them to see the opposite of, which kind of ingrains what their true meaning is. And I found that to be interesting in while I was preparing. So this one, also the students are helping to define it. So if you do have a non-child friendly definition, you can have the students help to define it if they're able, right? How can we make this more understandable, you know, after you describe it to them? And you can use collaborative groups, works in any subject matter, but like I said, this one's been around for a long time. And then on examples, a lot of times you can also use pictures. So if I'm doing friendly, draw me a picture. What does being friendly look like? So I'm gonna draw a picture of me giving cookies to Muzani. Semantic mapping, I think these predated the cavemen. But they're effective. They are effective. So semantic maps visually display and connect a word or phrase and a set related to word concepts. Implementing semantic map activities in your classroom will help your students, especially struggling students and students with learning disabilities, recall the meanings of words and understand how multiple words or concepts fit together. So, how could we use a web? We're gonna put a vocabulary word of, what was one of our? Lonely. I'm gonna put lonely in the center of my vocabulary, in my web. How would I use the circles on the outside?
Describing it.
Okay? You could use it in a lot of different ways. You can do synonyms for lonely. You could do times you were lonely. You could use antonyms for lonely. Timeline, some of these might be a little, so I'm thinking science when I look at timeline, like how does it change based on the stage of whatever it is. So there's always stages in science, right? Butterfly stages, whatever, how does that change? And then Venn diagram, how does the word similar, different, and the same, right? So these are all helpful tools of semantic mapping, especially if you have a word that your kids just aren't grasping. You can break it down a little bit more. Now, are we gonna do this for every single word that we have? We're trying to do, 6 to 10, how many words was it? 6? 5? What did she tell us?
I did 4. I do 4 for like a week. 'Cause
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
my kids, 'cause that's what fits on my foldable.
Right? So, we wouldn't necessarily do it for all of them, but if there's one they're struggling with, maybe we take a little bit of time and break it down a little bit more for them. These are some vocabulary review activities. So partner review, partners work together quickly to review words learned the previous day. Sentence review, partners create sentences using the words. Examples and non-examples, teacher tells students scenarios or shows pictures of students respond corally to each scenario, indicating whether it's an example or a non-example. So you could do a PowerPoint or Google Slides of examples of friendly and non-examples of friendly. And they're gonna say example, non-example. And what word fits, the teacher asks a question and students partner hold up an index card with the word that fits or answers the question. So maybe they have their 4 or 5 vocabulary words that you're learning for the week, and then you can ask them strategic questions that you get off of ChatGPT if you need to, and then they show you what card they think it is, would be an idea. Now this is where I want to take just a smidge more time. Morphology. Is this word new to anybody? It's okay. So morphology is a study of how morphemes are combined to form words, and we're going to break it down a little bit more than this so you can see how it can be helpful. So words are made up of morphemes, so prefixes, root words or base words, and suffixes. There is a difference between root words and base words, as I found. A base word can stand alone. No. Yes. Yes. A base word can stand alone on its own as a word, and a root word has to have either a prefix or a suffix with it. And then your suffix. So morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning. So un means not, reach, you're reaching, and able means able to do. Distractions, dis means away, tract means to pull or drag, ion means state of, and s means plural. All right, we're gonna keep talking about this just a little bit. So here's how it goes. So you have your phoneme, which is your smallest unit of sound in a word. So there's 44 phonemes or sounds in the English language. So A says ah and A, B says B, C says and yeah. So anyways, those are phonemes. Now, a grapheme is what the sound is in print. Okay, so your grapheme is a letter or group of letters that represent a sound in writing. So if I said sh, that is SH. And so the phoneme would be the sh sound, and the grapheme would be SH. Okay? Now, your morpheme then is the smallest unit of meaning that cannot be further divided. So a lot of people get syllabication, syllables, and morphemes can mix together, but they're different. Hopefully by the time we talk about morphemes, this will make more sense. But does that help a little bit? Okay. So let's take the word teacher. So the letters are T-E-A-C-H-E-R. The phonemes are the sounds e, sh, So we have 4 phonemes. The graphemes are the letters that spell the phoneme. So when we have E, we know EA says E, and CH says ch, and ER says So those are our graphemes. Now, morphemes are teach, which is our base word because it can stand alone, and which is a suffix. Now, if you are a struggling reader, which one of these would be easiest to decode? Looking at every single letter, T, E, A. I'm confused, right? Looking at the phonemes, well, how do I split those? Looking at the graphemes or looking at your morphemes, which would be easiest to read? The morphemes, because it's grouped together and there's less of it, right? Now, for our base word, there does come a time where we need to go this route, obviously, to learn what the base words are, but at a certain point, we should be able to teach them to identify their morphemes. Here's another example. Interrupting. Student sees this word on a page. What, right? What is that word? I could use so if we look down here, graphemes. I've already forgotten what I said over here, right? If I do syllables, so syllables, every time you open your mouth, interrupting, interrupting. They always forget that first one when they come back. I don't know why. So still better than having to break it down by graphemes, right? If we do syllable division, but if we do morpheme division, interrupting. Okay, so this is the power of teaching morphology, is that we're reducing the mental load on our students to read. If we're trying to teach them just to do it this way, that's a whole heck of a lot of letters. A lot of our students that have working memory is a struggle. This is never going to happen for them because they don't have the bandwidth in their working memory. If we could teach them this, that's a lot more doable, right? Okay, so Campbell creates readers on Instagram. Follow her if you don't, she's amazing. So a study found that morphological awareness influenced reading comprehension directly, but it also contributed to reading comprehension indirectly. That is, it contributed significantly to vocabulary, which in turn contributed significantly to reading comprehension. So vocabulary and reading comprehension are intermeshed, and you can't have one without the other. Okay. So I want to show you, 2 years ago with our freshman and sophomore, I read teaching morphology to middle school students is super important. So that's what I did, I taught morphology, but Heller didn't teach a lot of the other things that go along with it, and I didn't see a lot of the growth I was hoping to get from teaching morphology. I wasn't teaching it effectively because I didn't know any better. Maybe in 20 years, I'm gonna be a great teacher. But, so I want to share, I shared with you on your agenda the link to this that I'm gonna show you. And I also put a grade 1 through 5 morphology sequence. Something that I would like for us to consider possibly, I'm just gonna say we're almost halfway through the year, not quite, I mean, whatever, but, so, I provided these links for you. There's a ton in Teachers Pay Teachers, but I also need to add a link to 95%. There are some morphology programs that are explicit, they systematic, takes 5 to 10 minutes out of your day, that we, an idea that one of the presenters gave at conference was to have a school-wide morpheme of the week. And I know I'm what am I? An I and a W, so I'm ooh, ideas, but does not stress anyone out. I don't want to force that on anybody. But I thought that was a cute idea. Like there's a morpheme of the week and then everybody. So I am going to build in my hallway at secondary a morphology wall down low where anyone can look at it. And I'm going to follow the sequence that is in the program that I shared with you. Do or don't. It's not going to hurt my feelings at all. If you find something that works better for your class, for sure have at it. But I would kind of like us to think about morphology a little bit more and then maybe have a conversation, you know, to the end of the year as we're planning for next year, like some more hardcore, like how can we, because morphology, one, helps all readers, but especially our dyslexic readers, they're leaders too, it helps them significantly. So, and that goes back to our whole UDL premises. If it helps these, it's gonna help all of these, right? So I want to show you an example of this. So this is what I had them do. And again, I'm gonna redo it, but I'm also doing other stuff, not just morphology, so hopefully we'll have a little bit better. So I'm gonna pass this out to you, or just take one, pass it down. These are morphology, so that I didn't have to make copies. I had this already all planned out. So if you'll take one and pass it down, and then get a expo and pass it down. I just wanted to give a brief overview of what this can look like. But I'm not going to give you an easiest one. We're going to do something. Let's do dis. Okay, so in what I sent you, it has a little instructional handout. Now you could, it also has like a student handout if you wanted to.
One of your children thinks, no!
Yes. Yes.
There.
Yeah,
You always say that one.
well, there's more than one, I'm sure.
Oh.
So I teach middle schoolers. They're a little naughty sometimes. It's probably directed towards me. I'll do it. Make them learn. What is that one? Oh, middle schoolers. You're so sweet. Okay, so it gives you like a handout, and then I got all organized last night, I'm telling you. It has a word, paper, disc. So then it shows you, so you do one morpheme a week is all you have to do. So one morpheme a week, and it's not going to take a lot more time. This is unit 7, so this is not the first one. The first one is S, but I wanted it to be a little more difficult for you guys today. So I would say dis means, it's a Latin prefix, okay, and it means not or apart from. And it's very common, and it changes the meaning of the base word. So all of our affixes, which are prefixes or suffixes, change the meaning of a base word. And we're going to look on our paper, so it means not. So on your thing where it says prefix, I want you to write the word not. Oh, no, I lied. Dis.
Okay.
Sorry. I need more purple drink. Dis. Write dis on your prefix. And then on meaning, what did we say the meaning was? Not or apart from. So most of my kids are just going to write.
One word in this instance.
Not.
Apart is one word in this
Yes,
instance.
in this instant, apart is one word because it could be a part.
People get that wrong all the time.
I'm probably wrong.
Drives me crazy.
So you can write not or part of. Okay, and then you see a symbol or sketch. What could you draw that would show what not means?
X.
Not going to give you a clue or anything. An X. You can draw whatever you want. A thumbs down. You could draw an X. You could draw a mom saying no. if you're super artistic.
I didn't even try.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you a couple of word sums. So we're gonna say dis, and then I'm gonna give you the base word, and then you're gonna write it together, okay? So dis comes first, so write dis on your, all right, your base word is like, L-I-K-E. Now, dis plus like, write what that, what it creates.
Dislike.
Dislike. So what does dislike mean?
Not like something.
Do not like something. Okay, let's do one more. Dis, D-I-S, not dis like these, but dis. And agree, A-G-R-E-E. And then add them together, and we have,
Disagree.
what does disagree mean?
Do not agree.
I
don't.
do not agree. Do not agree. Okay, and then like I said, there is a page that you could do. It has a breakdown of like what to do each day, so that you're just spending just like a couple of minutes each day talking about the word. I just wanted to show you that part, but here's the fun part. Are you ready for the fun part? Can you set a timer? I want you to write. Do you want paper or can you write on this? I didn't get pencils. You can just write on all the sheets. You have 1 minute. I want you to write as many words, derivatives, actually, of dis plus a base word that you can think of in 1 minute. Okay? This is called Minute to Win It, and the winner gets a prize. They actually loved this part.
Wait, they already started.
On your mark.
Oh,
Get set, go! I'm not worried about spelling. Just do the best you can. Get as many written down as you can think of.
Just make up words.
I know.
Just kidding. Look, is that really a word?
Okay,
That
stop.
was a very short minute.
Okay, now we're going to go around the room. I want you to tell me one of the words that you put. If one of your classmates says one of the words that you wrote, you have to mark it out. And whoever has the most left at the end wins. Okay,
Disapprove?
disapprove. Does anyone have disapprove? Oh, you get to keep that one. Abby?
Disassociate.
Disassociate.
I got that one.
What I do every day after school. No. Okay, so mark it out. Somebody else has it.
So,
Lenny?
Discombobulate.
wow, that was a good one.
Okay. You get to keep it. You get to keep it. Mr. Smith?
Disproportionate?
Oh, of course not.
Math term. You can keep that one too. Dr. B?
Disparage.
Anybody? Bailey?
Disengage.
Disengage? Anybody? Gandhi?
Discourage.
Discourage?
Oh.
Oh, mark it out.
Disable.
Disable?
I got that one.
Mark it out. Lori?
Dismember.
Look what working with me has done to that girl. Does anyone else have dismember? I need to, there's a barcode I need to scan for her. On Monday, Anna's gonna call her across the radio.
I didn't think of that.
Miss Collins?
Disconnect.
Disconnect. Mark it out. Okay, Amy?
I got that word.
You're out?
I'm
Okay.
out.
Discredit. Discredit. Anybody? Lenny? You don't have any more?
Oh yeah, I have what? Discontent.
Discontent. Anybody have it? Okay, so to save time, you get the gist, right? This is what we would do, and then whoever, I mean, they would get. You're competitive. I haven't done it with my 6th graders, but I'm thinking they're gonna love this because that little group's competitive too. But our sophomore class, they love this and they're competitive. So this is fun for them. Feel free to erase or leave me a love note in your book. But if you want to do this, you can. I'm just starting on Monday with it's S, suffix S. Pretty easy peasy, but depending I have time this weekend to build the wall, but regardless, I'm gonna start. So it says intermediates. The primary one I sent you doesn't have the directions, but I noticed a lot of the words are the exact same. So
And you can send us the link to these papers.
that's in there as well.
Okay.
The link for those papers are in there, so if you wanted to create, I just found this was easiest, so I wasn't having to make copies all the time and waste paper.
Yes. And you're just following, like how you following what prefix you're doing. Just
So
whatever
it
class.
tells it to me, it gives it in order.
Oh, okay.
The lessons are in order in here, so it's like lesson 1 is,
Gotcha.
So on the wall out there, you're gonna do 1 a week?
yep, I'm just gonna do 1 a week, and then start with S, yes. And then these are on the primary, so I don't know why. The intermediate one doesn't have the definitions. The primary one does, but the primary one doesn't have the lesson plan. So you kind of need like a little bit of both. So I printed these that I'm gonna put on the wall as well to go with that. But it's just a super easy way to start helping them chunk a lot of these letters that, especially the content specific ones, hopefully help them learn some morphology. Now,
Apparently it helps a lot on the SATs as well.
yes.
This is what I've heard.
Yes, for sure. Especially your Greek and Latin affixes for SAT, super, and a lot of those Greek and Latin affixes are going to be your content areas as well. So, super helpful. Okay, now, bonus strategy, color forgot paper. Do you want to explain and I will go get paper, or do you want to go get paper and I explain? Okay, I will get paper.
So when we went to that conference, she talked about vocabulary and having like the most interactions with the words during the week. Like, so, as many interactions as you can get with the words without just sitting there and writing the definitions. And so she had this foldable, and she said the first day they write down the words, the kid-friendly definition, and draw a quick sketch. And then the second day, and you fold it like a trifold. And the second day, we get up and move around some music, and they have to stop when the music stops, and they ask each other what the words mean, and then you start the music again, you walk around, and you just do it for a little bit while they're practicing those definitions. You want to go from there?
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up our lovely little list of vocabulary words from our book, The Scarecrow.
Oh, and the next day you do it with sentences using the words.
Okay, so we have these words. You could just do one.
Hamburger or a hot dog bowl?
You're going, well, it's a trifold.
It's like this.
So to
I
do
know, but-
so it's gonna be hot dog, and then you're just gonna, now, do all your sides have to be the same exact? There's
Yes.
nothing that's perfect in art. Don't listen to Miss Collins. Don't listen to Miss Collins. Like that.
I always used to love that.
So choose one of these words, and then you're going to write the word in the first column, write the definition in the second column, and then draw a picture in the third.
So any one of the words?
Any one of them. Yeah, we're just gonna do one. Oh, you can also, if we were doing more than one word, you would fold it like Miss Collins. And your artwork does not have to be perfect. There is no perfect in art. Don't listen to Miss Collins.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one we're doing.
You just choose one word.
Oh, tell it. He did it to me funny, you know. That's what he said.
Miss Neil, will you be our music maestro when it comes time? So writing the word, the definition, you draw a picture of what it might look like.
And so when you fold it, you actually, when you make the trifold, if you do it like, yeah, if you do it like this,
You're
you
gonna hide
have
the picture.
the definition, or the word, and then you have the definition, so they can like quiz each other. And they can turn it over. What's the definition of this word, lonely? And they can look at the answer while the other kid is giving it to them, like a flashcard kind of.
So it's, there is on our slide, there's a QR code that you can scan and it'll show you how to do this process. Or Ms. Lockton has the book, I have the book, you have the book. In this book, it has barcodes that you can scan if you're like, now what do I do the first day, second day?
Yeah, and there's a website too, I think it's
Yes.
the website. with-
Oh, that's right. I'll put the website on your,
That's easier.
yeah, I'll put the website on your thing. Okay, so for today's purposes, I just want us, Abby's gonna play us music. We're gonna stand up, stretch her, and we're almost done, I promise. Abby's gonna play music. I want you to tell your word, the definition, and explain what your picture is and how that means the word, okay? So, if we were doing it the other way, you would have them guess, but for today, we're just gonna...
You can do it all different ways, so different days of the week, you do different things with it to get the most interaction.
Okay, so you're just gonna explain your word, the definition, and your
We're
picture.
not walking around?
Yep.
Oh.
Le bon pensée.
No, it's like, oh, you can't,
Oh,
like, walk
Don't
next
pop
to
the guard.
you have to take your phone so you can stop it.
Oh, okay.
First to stop.
No following each other. That's what I was telling myself.
Are we asking her right now?
No, keep walking.
You can only use the phone for one time. Anyway, Cody, anyway.
Everybody's coming in from both sides. Here we go.
I know what that's for, but
If she were to get right, what would it be?
Okay, we stopped. So you find the person closest to you.
I don't have anybody.
Okay, then
all
okay.
her
Okay, I just
Okay.
I'm not sure what my
Write everything down.
Hey, you guys
Okay.
Well,
Yes, we put this in our head.
I'm already tracing the one for him.
Or favorite. Yeah, we'll put your other favorite song on our playlist.
Another
The message.
I want you to get some exercise. I love this music. I'm just like,
What does lonely mean?
Continue to live.
Putting this person in a bed all alone. With the coconut.
And then the coconut. We can mix
no,
it
you can go back to your chairs.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just like looking at
Okay, I want to end with a quote, and then I want us to chat real quick about a few things. So, and again, this is Campbell Creation Readers. I take screenshots when I like quotes of things, and she said, when you don't see the value in something, it's difficult to find space for it in your instruction. But once you realize that you literally cannot teach comprehension without teaching vocabulary, another shift occurs. Suddenly you cannot separate the vocabulary instruction from the comprehension instruction because you know that understanding the vocabulary in a text is directly related to comprehending a text. And that's what reading is. Reading is comprehending. Reading is not just like reading is separate and comprehension is separate. Reading is comprehension. So I hope that maybe I gave you a couple of ideas. So I wanted to ask, is there a specific strategy or insight you had today that you plan to implement, or that was kind of like a aha moment for you, or anybody?
I think what you said, the morphology, the weekly, that would be good. Because even if, you have struggling readers, or they may not know a lot of words that start with that prefix or whatever, just introducing them to them. So maybe if they can't go and do the minute challenge or whatever, we could do it together and I could give them examples.
Yeah.
And that just like gives them more words in their language.
I like that idea for the younger kids. Instead of having them write it, then maybe y'all could even do it whole class. We're gonna set a minute. We're gonna see how many can we get this week while we're going over this word. We got 6 this week. Yay. Okay, next week let's see if we get more.
They love
Whatever.
being investigators, like when they're just like reading in the book, the library in my classroom. Just like if they see, if we're working on in phonics, ED that week, they're like ED words, like it's constant, really long. Sometimes it's a lot because there's a lot of words that end in ED, but it's still like they're looking for those things. So that's good.
Well, and that might be something we look at to make the board more interactive at some point. Like, I just want to get it started, but like where we can add words to it. Like if a student's like, oh, I know a word that matches that, then they could put it on a sticky note and put it on the board, or in a section. I don't know. So many ideas, so little time. But I think just getting started on it will be helpful. And then as you guys are doing it in your classrooms, we could share what's working and some ideas to help make it more of a school-wide thing. Anybody else?
This is not an instructional strategy that I'm using, but just something I'm thinking about is in the direct instruction that we're delivering to the students, being a little bit more maybe thoughtful ahead of time about the words that you're going to be saying and which ones could be tricky and how to break those down in advance, pre-teaching the language, because it's not just what they're going to read, it's what you're going to say. And if you're missing a word in that instruction, like a kid is listening to you and they don't know what that word is, and you keep saying that word over and over, it's going to mess up their entire comprehension of whatever you were trying to deliver, and there's just a gap. So, and usually what kids do, I see this, they'll just be like, I don't know.
Right.
And they just don't know. They don't try to figure it out. They don't try to like piece it together, use context clues. No, they're just like, what is that one? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So being like curious and thoughtful in advance of, this is the instruction I'm going to deliver. This is a word that they may not totally understand. Let me teach it in advance before I even start the direct instruction. I could see that being particularly challenging in math and science, because you run into so much academic vocabulary.
Yes, that's huge. Something I started doing this week, so in Study Sync, like I can go in and tweak. So it already gives like the writing prompt that it wants the students to use, and I'm looking at the language has been too high for my students to understand, like what is it asking for. So I'm taking that prompt and putting it into Brisk and telling it to lower the level, and then putting it back in there, and they're able to do it. And then I'm asking Brisk for a paragraph template based on this prompt, so that I'm able to put that in there. So I'm giving them, like, those who need it to use it, those who don't need it aren't going to, because they can just, it goes back to that. If they can do it, they will. If they can't, I mean, they can't. But anyways, the paragraph prompt, just to help with some of that vocabulary that at this point is a little higher, that they're not understanding what the question is asking them. So I'm lowering it, and that's been helping a lot with their writing ability even. So any other thoughts or ideas?
I think I need to, this is something that I think about more with middle school, but I need to also try to apply this with high school. So yeah, because I automatically think about vocabulary when I'm dealing with middle school, but not as much with high school.
And I think that's a general thing that we all kind of tend to do in a lot of the sessions that I went to, and the things that they're talking about. They're like, okay, we've got primary grades figured out with the science of reading. We've got the foundation set. Like, we now know what to do. We just got to do it, right? There's a lag in secondary with the students who never received the foundational skills or never understood the foundational skills in primary are now, we have them in secondary and teaching them they still need foundational skills in middle school and high school. And the general consensus is with a lot of curriculum is that they've already learned everything, so now we're just doing soliloquies and all of these extra things that don't make sense because they don't have the foundational skills. And so I think a lot of what we're going to see coming in the future with education reform, if you want to call it that, is more stress on our middle grade students in how to incorporate those foundational skills that they are lacking. And it's not just TLA students are lacking. Like, this was a national issue. This is not a TLA issue. This is a national issue. They're lacking foundational skills in how to interweave that foundational skill with this higher content that we're, trying to teach so that we prepare them for college and that kind of thing. So that's going to be kind of like a driving force in education, is how to implement science of reading all the way up with the foundations, because they are lacking them. So I think, like you said, you think like middle school and then high school, like you guys got it, but yeah, they don't. They do not. So, anything else? As always, you guys are amazing. Thank you for the support.